Hey guys, welcome to another episode of R-Rated Christianity. Thank you. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm sure you ate too much. I know I did. I mean, as healthy as I eat and as much as they bust my balls about how I eat and how strict I eat and all this other stuff, when it comes to Thanksgiving,
you go all out?
And Christmas,
you go all out.
Gluttony.
Shut up, really?
Yes.
Because if you don't know Nico has an interesting diet. Interesting, unique, better than all of us. You know, you're those type of
thing interesting about it. I mean, I eat healthy. I try to eat. I take
too healthy.
No, not too healthy.
You're those type of people that when
1 Corinthians 6:19, the temple of the Holy Spirit. I'm just trying to take care of God's temple.
But I have like 10 sanctuaries right here. It's not just one temple. But okay, well, how did you mess up your diet? What did you eat?
Well, I mean, I ate everything.
Like what?
From turkey to mashed potatoes to stuffing to more stuffing to more turkey, green bean casserole, whatever.
Who made the turkey?
Well, my parents buy it. It was an organic, like free range turkey. Smoked.
Organic turkey.
We did it, man.
Today.
I'm Guy. What do you want me to do?
Wow. We got tamales.
Well, he's
tamales.
my designated
Organic.
tamale eater.
Yeah,
so
vegetable made tamales.
He's on the seafood diet. He sees food and he eats it.
Anywhere I see food. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for joining us today. Let me ask you a question. What does your grandpa look like? That was a question on the menu. So, what does your grandpa look like? I remember when I was a young kid, and when the first times they would talk about origins or evolution in school. Creation. Or evolution, they would tell you.
Well, yeah, they don't talk about creation anymore.
Yeah. They would say, does your grandpa, do you think your great-great-great-grandpa look like a monkey? And like they would start the conversation like that just to get your attention.
Yeah.
But that would make us think like, oh my goodness, really? And nowadays that conversation doesn't even come up in school and even in church.
Well, the question becomes, do we believe in creationism or natural selection through random mutation? And then how does that reconcile with the Bible? Bottom line, I mean, we're Christians, we're followers of Jesus Christ. I mean, if you are, then you are as well. Do you believe that book? I mean, is it just the New Testament? I mean, I know for me as a young believer, as a follower, I was like, well, I didn't know how to handle Genesis, whether it was the Levitican law, whether it was Adam and Eve, whether it was creation, 6 actual days, Noah's flood. Oh, was that 6, the whole world or whatever? Yeah. Was it really a worldwide flood? What happened? Every animal in the world, how did they fit in there? And I didn't want to handle it, so I said, well, it's all about the New Testament anyway. It's all about Jesus. The problem is, what we know factually now is when young people go to college, and the reason why 70 or 75% are walking away from the Christian worldview is because there's some academic there with a smart-ass remark and they're poking holes in Genesis. I've said this many times, people have heard me say this, that I would love to, I'm putting together a talk, because before I talk about your Jesus, I want to talk about your Genesis. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that matters. And so if you can get anybody to doubt Genesis and origins from a biblical worldview, well, then it's like, well, maybe you're wrong about Jesus too. Maybe you're wrong about this.
Everything else collapses.
Everything else collapses. Yeah. That's a foundation, like a house.
And it's interesting, Nico, because we are taught to accept things by faith, right? Just believe it. Sometimes they took it to the extreme without any reasoning, without any evidence, right? That's the way sometimes they taught us, which is a good thing in its essence, in the saying, I believe in God. Whatever he does, however he does it, I believe in him. But we never really dove in to try to reason stuff out, because we could, right? Is there a difference between believing and doubting? Like some people say, like, you can't doubt. You just got to accept it as is.
Well, the questioning and doubting, I question what God's doing sometimes. I don't doubt his character or his wisdom. There's a difference.
So you can question?
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, we can do a whole talk and we can do a whole show on people in the Bible that question God. I mean, even Jesus in Matthew 26, he's on his face, sweating blood, and at the point of death, saying, if you can take this cup, if not, let your will be done, not mine. I mean, he was sweating, he was nervous. He allowed himself to experience that in his flesh. So it's normal to have questions. We're supposed to have questions.
So you think there's going to be some questions that will never be answered?
Of course.
Okay. For example, so we're talking about creation and stuff like that.
Not never. They'll be answered when we stand before the Lord, but on this side of heaven, they won't be answered.
Let me ask you a question. You believe in Adam and Eve?
Yes.
Okay. Did Adam have a belly button?
I don't know. I don't care.
What is the reason it through? Let's reason it through. Let's see.
Okay.
Do you think he had a belly button?
I don't know.
Really? You would go as far as to say if he had a belly button, because you're a very reasoning, technical, follow the evidence. Would he have a belly button?
He wouldn't need one, if that's what you're asking me.
Okay, cool.
He wouldn't need one if we believe the biblical rendition, which I do, but I don't care if he did or didn't.
Got it. I mean, so that doesn't affect you. No. So the reason I was asking you is because a lot of people, when you think about creation, Genesis, right? Studying Genesis. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions because they weren't there, right? They weren't there. And they start questioning, well, like you mentioned, well, did God really create the earth in how many days?
6 days.
6 days. Did he do the whole earth? So a lot of people think technically it was 6 days. right?
Brother, yes, there are a lot of people believe that.
But then, not just that, there's a lot of other questions in a lot of other areas. And we're taught to say, you know what, that's the way it is. Don't question it. Don't develop any questions, not doubts, but anyway, just accept it as is. And I think we've gone through so many years without really cutting it down and saying, okay, let me analyze this.
Look, let me tell people, origins is not a salvation issue. It's a credibility issue. Romans 10:9 doesn't say if you don't believe that God created in this, or if you don't believe Genesis exactly the way somebody thinks it was, then you don't have salvation.
Got it.
It's not. Do you believe in your heart and profess with your mouth that Christ is Lord and that he rose from the dead? That's it. There's your justification. There's your one-way ticket to heaven.
Yeah.
Now, Genesis and origins and evolution versus creationism and 6 actual days versus periods of time, old earth versus young earth, global flood versus regional flood, or whatever people want to debate, those are credibility issues that affect the church and affect in my opinion, the gospel of Jesus Christ, because last time I checked, there's not Velcro on the Bible. There's not a button where you can, or an area where you can unbutton and go, okay, forget the Old Testament. I just want to stick to the New Testament. We take that book as is.
Yeah.
Either we know that God inspired it and we believe it's the Word of God, or we don't. Those 66 books need to mean something to us, so we need to properly handle the Word of truth. 2 Timothy 2:15, we've talked about that many times in here. And many Christians, I talk to a lot of young people. I've talked to plenty of colleges and people that have questions. And when you start talking about origins and Genesis from a very common sense, logically consistent point of view, I mean, God's not kooky. He's not a corny person, and he makes sense. He's logically consistent, and he doesn't violate the law of non-contradiction. He doesn't do that. And so when you meet people where they're at, and there's no choice, that is a bullshit choice. I'll say it again, a bullshit choice when they say pick your faith or pick science. Science is not an ideology. Yeah. Science is a series of methods or processes that test the truth. That's all science. So science verifies the Bible, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinion. And I hope we're gonna dissect that a little bit today, and then next week when we bring the Professor George in, and then get ready for that. You better be able to record it or something, because he's gonna rock your world.
I like that
we teach on it.
I like that you say studying this is not a salvation issue. A lot of people argue certain other areas that are not salvation issues. They argue it with some passion that if you don't believe like them, people get into fights. For example, years ago, I remember somebody said, okay, when you think of Noah, right, Noah's Ark, what questions do you have? How it happened? Where did it happen? Technical, scientific aspects of it. And I remember they took like a whole hour of people having questions like how many animals were on it, and how did they create it? What was the ark, and how many days, and stuff like that. So they're beautiful questions that we can sit down and talk about it. So that's what we're doing today.
We're going to start this conversation. They're legitimate questions. More young people than older people, because older people usually have been taught, like you said, just have faith, blind faith. Well, faith is persuasion. What are you persuaded by? Evidence, proof. I mean, I've said this before on the show. When John the Baptist was in his own little storm and he's in prison and he's telling everyone that Jesus, I can't even tie his sandals, go be his disciple, Christ, he's eating locusts and hair's all jacked up, setting the way for Christ. As soon as he's in his own shitstorm, he tells his disciples, hey, go to Yeshua and ask him, is it really him? Mm-hmm. Is it really? And I think it's fascinating what Jesus says back to him. Jesus didn't say, tell him to pray about it, speak in tongues, do whatever. Tell him what you heard.
Tell him about the evidence.
He says, tell him what you saw.
Yeah.
Jesus is evidentiary. And so I'm going to follow the evidence. Look, all the crime scenes that I studied as a prosecutor or defense attorney, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I have to put cases together or analyze cases based on evidence and logic, critically thinking and putting a case together using logic and reasoning and following the evidence wherever it leads me. Jesus is not asking us to check our mind in at the door. The mind is a tool of worship. Use your mind, properly handle the word of truth, and the Bible is beautifully written, and it matches up with science. It's a BS choice.
So, for example, following our journey, when did your first questions arise in regards to that particular area that God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days?
I didn't think about it when I was young. I went to Catholic school all my life. It was just never questioned. It was 7 days. Okay, no one's talked to me about the Hebrew and what Yom meant. Yom means day. We'll talk about that in a little while.
Hey, you know what? Before we start that, maybe we should ask people, if you're watching right now, and I don't know how long you've been in church, how many years you've been in church, and maybe you have this How many, do you believe God created the heavens and the earth in 7 actual days?
Six.
Sorry, 6 actual days. If that is what you believe, say it. You know what? I believe that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 actual 24-hour days. Mm-hmm. If you believe that, you were taught like that, put it in the thread. And so you never thought about it, right?
Well, I didn't at first, and then I get to St. Mary's, and you have to take a theology class, and the priest, the father that was teaching the class, he started talking about evolution, and then the days, and he says, well, the church's official position is as long as you believe that God breathed life into some primitive person, it's like almost like you were given in to this evolution mindset, then that's okay, as long as you believe that God did that. Whether Adam and Eve was metaphorical, whether it was literal, I mean, and they're kind of giving in. It's like, well, the problem is that it's referenced New Testament. I mean, there's disciples, there's prophets, there's Christ himself is referencing back to something, so either they're mistaken also, or it's true, and you have to do a better job studying. That's the way I looked at it. From an evidence standpoint, as a lawyer, as someone that was hungry for truth. After, like I told you, my brother passed away and was murdered, and I was angry, and I needed answers, and I wanted to know if that damn book was real. I wanted to know if God's character was true. I wanted to know if I could really have faith in this thing called heaven, if there really was an afterlife, if Jesus actually rose from the dead. It's the same damn book. I can't divorce them. So if I want to believe the New Testament, either someone screwed up in the Council of Nicene or the council of one of these councils before that put these 66 books together, and that's another talk, by the way, or else it is what it says it says. I mean, it is what it is, and it says what it says, and I should believe it and have faith in it.
So your faith depending on you understanding the Bible?
Say that again?
Your faith, or you say you were searching. You wanted to read the Bible and understand it to be able to say, yes, I believe.
I wanted to understand God's character. I wanted to know whether I was really going to believe in seeing my brother again, if heaven was real, if I really believed that this first century Jew named Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, really rose from the dead, and if I could put my faith, my persuasion, and really buy into the biblical worldview and the Christian lifestyle.
To a certain degree, you did have to understand some parts of the Bible for you to...
Well, I mean, the only way to understand God's character is to understand his word, because they said that's his word. He was the word and became the word. So, I mean, yes, I needed to understand the Bible because I didn't have anything else. I mean, other religions have several books. We have the Bible, an Old and New Testament, 66 books, fascinating books. There's messianic prophecies in the Old Testament for thousands of years talking about this guy named Jesus going to show up. He shows up and he predicts his own death. He actually predicts his raising from the dead. He dies the way he says he's going to die, the way the prophets say he did. And he predicted his resurrection. And there's very strong evidence that it happened. I mean, objective evidence, not, kooky evidence. And so I was persuaded by that. So then I needed to go back and say, okay, well, if I really want to go all in, what about this Genesis stuff? What about this origin stuff? What about evolution? What about the age of the earth? Is the earth really 6,000 to 10,000 years old? What do I do with science?
That's before you believed?
No, I mean, once I believed, I didn't even think about it before.
Okay, got it.
I mean, I didn't give a crap. I mean, what do I care about that? And then early on in my belief, I discredited the Old Testament. But then I came to a crossroads in my walk, and I said, what do I do with this book? I keep referencing the book. I don't just reference the New Testament.
What caused this crossroads?
Well, as I got closer to Christ.
Okay.
And I became more of an advocate. No. I became more of an advocate. I was convinced about Jesus. And then I worked my way backwards.
Got it.
I mean, I was all in with Jesus. Because remember, I started my journey. Okay, it's all about the resurrection. Let me start there and work my way out. And so I said, well, how did we get here? And where are we going? Well, it starts at Jesus. I'm going to work my way out this way. And so I had to get back to Genesis at some point, which I started to.
So one of the things that we talk about is that the church and the schools need to teach kids. They need to take them back to Genesis. Why is that very important? Why is it? What difference will it make in somebody's life? I'm glad that they accept Christ and they believe in Christ as their salvation.
Are you talking about the faith-based school or a secular school?
Or anybody. How could it benefit somebody to say, you know what? Now that you believed, study Genesis. How could it help them?
With their faith,
yes.
With their level of commitment. I mean,
it helps their level of commitment.
Yes, I mean, because I'm telling you, the lie and the bullshit that's taught to so many Christians is choose your faith or science. You guys are nuts. Yeah, you believe whatever you want to, but what are you going to do with all this? What do you do with dinosaurs? Mm-hmm. What do you do with the fact that the universe is we believe it's 13.8 to 14.3 billion years old?
Yeah.
What do you do with an Earth that's 3.9 to 4.5 billion years old?
Yeah.
What do you do with the fact that we know for sure that there were 5 major extinctions in the history of the Earth? 5, where over 85% of the world's life was done. So something had to start over again. What do you do with these with scientific, these methods that are showing us certain truths about what happened and how the earth got here? And how does that reconcile with your book? And as I started studying Genesis and walking through it with George and doing my own studies, I said, wait a minute, man, we have been fed a bunch of bullshit, meaning that the church has not all the church, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, has not properly handled the word of truth. I mean, and I don't know if you want to just pop the bubble and talk about certain issues or whatever, but I don't believe in a young earth. I don't. And you'll get people that get all bananas. You get some Christians that go apeshit over that. It's like, you don't believe in a young earth, you don't believe the Bible, you must believe in
For
evolution.
those that don't know, what's believing in young earth?
A young earth means that the earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old. Because people think that if you believe in an old earth, that means you must be an evolutionist. And I'm not.
Yeah.
Now, there's progressive creationists, which is what I am. I know it sounds weird, a progressive in me. Progressive creationist.
Yeah.
There's theistic evolutionists, right? And there's young earth.
Young earthers.
So there's young earthers. So you have to understand where you're at, and in the church, there's different sections of that. And I would classify myself, as George will tell you next week, same with himself, as a progressive creationist, meaning God progressively created things the way Genesis says it did, but he created everything. I do not believe in natural selection because there's no evidence of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an evidence guy. Jesus tells me to follow the evidence. He tells me to properly handle the word of truth. I'm going to follow truth. And so science and our faith do this. It's a beautiful handshake.
Yeah.
And I'm not a young earther.
Yeah.
I don't believe God created in 6 actual 24-hour periods, and I think the evidence is
Chris
right in
says,
front of us.
I believe what the Bible says from cover to cover. We must also understand.
So do I.
We must also understand that a day to us is 24 hours, but God's perception of time is probably a whole lot different than ours.
Well, Chris is, I don't know who that is, but Chris, you're on track because 1 minute is to 1,000 years, and they use that version of it. But when you have to really get back to the Hebrew. Remember, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. And so the word for day was yom. There was 4 definitions of day. Could it have been 24 hours? Yes. Or a 12-hour period. Or just the daylight hours, meaning the daylight hours change throughout the year. Or the 4th definition is a finite period of time. Let me give you an example that I often use. If I tell you, hey, back in the day, I used to fill in the blank. Well, now, are you going to tell me, Nico, which day are you talking about?
Back in the day.
Which 24-hour period are you talking about? Well, nobody. Which 12-hour period are you talking about? Which daylight period are you Well, no. Which period of time are you talking about? You're talking about a period of time in your life, a finite period of time in your life, back in the day. It's a figure of speech. It's no different. In Hebrew, they had only like 9,000 words. George will tell you next week. They had a very limited language. And so you have to look at context when they use the word world, day, different expressions. The example and the context will give you the definition. And so finite period of time. God, think about what they're saying. They're saying that God created in 6 actual 24-hour periods.
He's not that powerful.
God is, sure.
Okay, I'm saying, so how many days do you think he created in?
He created in 14.3 billion years.
Really?
A day is a finite period of time. Think about this.
A finite period of time.
Meaning,
so who determines how finite, or what's the length of that?
God does. He has principles in order.
So could it be a day? Could it be an hour?
Brother, it could be anything. But what I'm saying is, to eliminate billions of years from the definition of Genesis is ridiculous. Think about.
Why are you eliminating a 24-hour day?
I'm not. It's just not reasonable.
Why is it not reasonable?
Because tell me what the science shows.
The science does show that it's that one day is a million.
Science shows that the Earth is 4.3 roughly. Let's just say 4 to 4.3 billion years old.
Yeah,
4.3 billion with a B. And we know that the Earth was created over a long period of time. Think about it, 24-hour period of time. What does it say after each day in Genesis?
Rested?
No, it says what? It says, nope, it says what? Tyler, Charlie, you know?
No.
Tyler, Charlie's still drunk from the cruise.
Yeah,
Charlie. But what is it? So it says evening to morning, day 1. Evening to morning, day 2. Well, gosh, I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid, which I'm fine if I am. What does evening to morning give you the perception of?
A day.
Evening to morning gives you a perception of 24 hours? Evening to evening would give you the perception of...
Or morning to evening.
Evening to morning tells me it's either a 12-hour period or a period of time.
Or maybe 6 hours. 6 hours,
maybe.
morning to evening, maybe.
Well, what I'm saying is some evening to some morning, and when you look at the Hebrew, and it's used in different areas of the Old Testament, that was an expression in Hebraic expression that meant a period of time. Evening to morning was a period of time. It was not 24 hours. Who thinks of
So
evening
maybe
to
I'm too
morning?
slow. So
That's
that
okay.
period of time could mean what?
Billions of years.
It can only mean that?
No, but it doesn't mean 24 hours.
So if it could mean anything, why couldn't it mean 24 hours?
Give me the proof that it means 24
There's no,
hours.
well, give me the proof it's a million.
We know that the earth is over 4 billion years old.
We know that. Let me ask you
Yes,
this.
we do.
As a dumb skeptic.
It's okay.
Who went, because we were talking about it the other day. When you were in school, they taught you what's a theory and what's a fact, right? A fact was provable, that you can prove it and repeat the process and prove it as a fact, right?
Okay.
So somebody went 4 billion years back and proved it.
There's carbon dating, there's different dating, and there's the doubters out there.
Can it be repeated?
You can test it. You can't repeat 4 billion years ago.
No, but you can test.
How do I know that you were born?
There's documents.
So I wasn't there.
So, but you weren't there.
So if your standard is someone has to be there to see it, then throw out all of history.
Got it.
You got to throw out all of history. There's ways to test it. Remember, what is science?
So you're telling me
Science
it's
is
a fact.
series of- It is a fact that the earth is old. It is a fact.
More than 4 billion years? You know how many
No, what I'm saying is, remember, young earth people, if they believe this, and we're just having conversations, so I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I don't care if you are offended, is say that it's 6,000 to 10,000 years old. The earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old. We have fossil records, we have dinosaur records, we have rock, and we have archaeological records. The Cambrian explosion, meaning that over a 10 million year period, we have 84% of our genotypes showed up, our skeletal types showed up. Man, that sounds like creation. Out of nowhere, just no evolution. Just you have all these skeletal types appear in the fossil records because you have the Jurassic, pre-Jurassic, Cambrian, pre-Cambrian. They study rocks, they study trees, they study things, and we know that the Earth is old. We know that. That's scientific. Now you can doubt science. You can say carbon dating sucks. Well, you better be able to back that up with peer-reviewed study. You can't just say BS without proof. We have to have some evidence. We know the Earth is old. I mean, and George, we're gonna. Like I said, be ready next week, and George is going to just rattle it out.
So you're saying that those 6 days of creation were billions of years?
Were periods of time, yes.
Billions of years. Okay.
Well, think about this. Well, just think about. Let's just another little. When was Adam and Eve in the creation story?
In the beginning.
Well, what day?
Third? I can't remember.
Nope. Well, it's on one. It's in the same day that they screwed up. It's day 6. I believe it's day 6. Okay, someone can fact check me really quick, but I think it's day 6. I'm almost positive, but it's day 6. So he creates Adam, right? Then he has a conversation with Adam, and Adam's like, "Man, what the hell is this? This is cool, man." And then Adam names all the animals, After he talks to God, and so God's like, "Okay, go. Name all the animals. How long do you want to talk? Well, let's not talk too long. We're already 3 hours into this deal, Adam. Hold on." Okay, go name everybody. I'm tired of talking to you. It's been 4 hours. You only got 20 hours left. He names all the animals. And then he gets bored. You're already bored in one day? You're bored? What are you bored with? You just named how many animals did you name? What do you start off with hippopotamus and you end up with cow. Did you get tired at the end?
Alphabetical order.
I mean, what did you do? I mean, right? Elephants, ox. Exactly. He got tired at the end. He was ready. He was bored. He's just a rat, right? Whatever.
Made him shorter.
Yeah. I mean, so think about that. Then he had to go to sleep, but he couldn't go to sleep too long because we don't know how much time is left since we're only dealing with 24-hour period. Then Eve is created. How long did God take to take his rib and to create Eve? I don't know. I wasn't there. Neither were you.
No, that would have taken billions just to create
we don't know.
Such a masterpiece.
Yeah, quit sucking up, guy. So we don't know that. Then Eve wakes up.
Yeah.
Adam wakes up. Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, you look pretty good. How did they get to know each other? I don't know, but maybe they spent some time together.
Look at your belly button. Look at mine.
Yeah, look at my belly. I don't think it was his belly button. But now let's go look at all the animals that I named. Look at all this stuff God gave us. Who's God? He created you. Do you want to meet? And they're talking. And then Eve runs into the damn snake, eats the apple, and God is like, man, it hasn't even been 24 hours, you dumbasses, and you already screwed this thing up? Do you know how goofy we sound? No wonder the Bill Maher's of the world make fun of us.
Yeah.
That's not logically consistent. And it doesn't follow the records that we have of age of the earth, of fossils that we have. And again, if you just want to say, oh, that's not true, then okay, I guess, but just back. All I'm saying is give me evidence.
That's impressive. More than billions of years. Those 6 days in the Bible, to you, it's more than it's billions
Well, it's not
of
just
years.
to me, it's to a lot of people. It's to a lot of scholars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scholarship on this, very deep theologian scholars on this. And then the seventh day, we're still in the seventh day. God has not created in many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
What's the biblical evidence for that we're still in the seventh day?
Okay.
Well,
we're still in the seventh day. Tyler is asking that what's the biblical,
Evidence?
Biblical evidence.
God's rested from creating. Tell me the last time he's created something.
So
Besides-
we're in the seventh day of creation.
We're in the seventh period of time. That's a lot of people's
perfect.
thinking is, which is my thinking. I mean, I believe that too. And when you have this conversation with young people, it's like, oh wow, I guess, because think about Genesis. Think about Genesis. I love when I tell people, what is the greatest miracle that's ever happened in the world? I mean, in the history of mankind, of the history of creation, of anything, whatever you believe. The greatest miracle ever done isn't the resurrection, it's creation. It's creation from nothing. God created everything from nothing.
Ex nihilo.
Ex nihilo. Ex nihilo in Hebrew means create, not make.
Out of nothing.
Out of nothing, ex nihilo. Now, when you make a cake from other ingredients. You
Yeah.
get flour, you get egg, you get butter, you get whatever, and you make from other. But when you say I created, that means from nothing. We know that science has finally caught up to Genesis.
Hey, hold on. Crane says, okay, Hector says this. There's a definite definition of scientific theory, and then there is a theory. Please look at the definitions. Have you all watched
Okay.
Genesis History? It used to be on Netflix. If not, I recommend it. Crane, Pastor Crane says, I would like to come up and give another perspective. Hey, Crane, you know my family. You know my phone number. If you want to call me right now and give us your opinion, that would be awesome, because I can connect you to the mic right now. So you still have my number, Pastor Crane? You can call me and give us your opinion. Crane, just use the chat. No. You can call in. If you know my phone number, call me right now. Hippos and cows. Record dating and historical findings proves science. Oscar de Hoyos, gracias por conectarte. Carmen Prunda, I pray rest for you both. Nicole Murray says, kinds like watching old Godzilla movies.
What happened?
I don't know. She must be drinking.
I was going to say the same thing.
Dang, we're in the same spirit. The video. Oh, check the audio. Did you check the audio?
Yeah, the video is like 8 seconds behind.
Why didn't you tell me?
Well, we did discuss it.
You're still off?
What's wrong?
It's still off. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Okay, guys, we're gonna stop and come back. All right, guys, you should have told me. That's what I told you. All right, guys, we're gonna stop and come back and wait like 5 minutes.